and welcome to Reuters at Davos 2025. I'm Nazanin Moshiri. Today I'm joined by Regina Mayor, Global Head of Clients and Markets at KPMG International, and Adrian Clamp, Partner and Global Head of Connected Enterprise at KPMG International. With AI set to revolutionize industries and societies, we'll dive into the blueprint for intelligent economies, a bold initiative being launched here at Davos to drive inclusive and sustainable growth. Thank you so much for joining us here. Adrian, can you tell us a little bit about the blueprint, what it's about and why it's important?
Yes, the blueprint, which launched today, Nazanin, is an initiative undertaken with the World Economic Forum and what's called the AI Governance Alliance. So it is 200 companies, many of them the leading tech firms in the world, also large companies in different sectors, but also not-for-profit and academia, trying to paint a picture of what's the economy of the future going to look like. What are these intelligent economies? How are they structured? How do they create value? How do they not leave people behind? And how do we trust AI in this future that we'll have ahead?
And what are the main sort of points in the blueprint that are extremely relevant here in Davos, do you think?
I think what's important about the work is that we're trying to lay out a future roadmap and say, you know, how can countries, no matter where they are on the sort of wealth rankings, how can they build an AI economy? How can they bring in private sector assistance and collaborate and really upskill people in this new future?
And Regina, you have come from a very high-level event on the blueprint. What are government leaders, companies saying about this blueprint? What are their main takeaways, do you think?
The conference that we just held, they weren't actually talking about using the blueprint. And we had a representative from one of the large regions in the world that's fast growing. And her point was she's using the blueprint because 2.6 billion people on the planet don't even have access to the internet. So how can we talk about AI when they don't have devices and they don't have access to use the tools that are available? So she was using the blueprint to say, don't work on your cryptocurrency policy. Let's work on providing the base level of infrastructure for the 80% of your population that doesn't have access to the internet today. So I think what is important about the blueprint is it has multiple building blocks that the governments can then use to say, these are the base level foundational elements. This is how you then grow that intelligent economy. And this is how you put people at the heart of that blueprint.
So what Regina mentioned there was collaboration, which I guess is really important between not just governments and stakeholders, but just with people in general as well. I mean,
Sure.
How do you think that can happen, and how can the blueprint enable that kind of collaboration that we're talking about?
Well, as Regina was saying, it's in three layers, really. Part of it, for sure, is creating the new foundations of the modern economies. And that does involve, you know, power grids and connectivity and access to devices and compute and so forth. And also, you know, significant amounts of capital coming in to fund this build-out. But on top of those new foundations, we're going to have a vibrant new economy where people will act. You know, every business in every sector and the public sector themselves will adopt AI and change the way that they work. And it's so important, as Regina was saying, that we put people at the heart of this, that we don't leave people behind. And that means we're thinking about jobs. We're thinking about how the future of work is shaped, what is meaningful and what uplifts human potential here. Because yes, we're going to see more and more machines doing more activity, but at the end of the day, you know, this is about people and uplifting our experience as well. So we've covered all these various building blocks. It just enables countries to assess where they are, build out a national AI strategy, maybe collaborate with some other countries or private sector, and move their economy forward. It really is nation building. You know, the amount of economic value at stake here is quite unprecedented in recent times.
What kind of time frame are we talking about here?
Well, in a way, the starting gun, and this is something was mentioned on the panel that Regina mentioned, has just been fired. We're really only 2 years in a very early stage after ChatGPT, you know, launched into the public consciousness. So we're at early stages. It will take years and years to play out, but we're starting to see you know, real shoots of economic activity happening in different parts of the world.
And to the point about time frame, one of the comments that we talked about on the panel was it's not new technology necessarily, right? AI has been around for 50 years, but it's the new use and the scaling of the new capability. So it's brand new on the one hand and 50 years old on the other. And then the panelists also really emphasize we're only at the starting gates. So don't feel like you're necessarily being left behind, but use it and start engaging with it.
Yeah.
So also when we're talking about AI, I think it's also important to remember that real estate and also energy is crucial. And I know, Regina, your focus is on that. Can you tell us a little bit about how things are shaping up in terms of how to prepare for AI in these different sectors?
So one of the statistics that one of the large tech companies was sharing while we were on the panel, that for every given data center, let's say it houses a gigawatt of energy, it's cost $40 to $50 billion to build. So when you think about the new electricity that needs to power that, and then the capital and infrastructure, right? It's a facility of some kind. But the financiers are pretty excited about the returns of these investments because they see it as stable, low double-digit returns for long periods of time. And lots of private financiers will want to get into it as well. So for real estate, for energy, for financial services, there are lots of potential opportunities.
And there's a lot of discussion as well about the kind of uneven pace of the development of AI globally, with some countries which are way behind and some which are, we spoke about the UK being quite advanced or trying to actually get a foothold in this early on. How can you bridge this divide, which is going to be massive, and a lot of countries, unfortunately, will be left behind?
It's one of the reasons we did the blueprint. The digital divide, in a way, could be made wider through AI. The vast sums of money that Regina's mentioned aren't accessible to every country. So having a blueprint and saying, this is our ambition as a country. This is what we want to be. These are the sectors we're going to lean into and seek to build our economy around. These are the ethics and frameworks that will buy into the regulation. That makes you investable. So there's a lot of discussion in the forums here about how do we access private capital as well as public funds, combine the two, and share between countries, probably in regions. You'll see in Africa, regional coalitions already forming, in the Gulf states as well, regional coalitions, of course the EU. And the UK you mentioned as well, a real leader.
And also there are different ways of dealing with this as well, where some countries are going for more regulation, whereas others are a bit more sort of freer in developing these technologies. I mean, you've been speaking to a lot of business leaders and governments, Regina, and what would you say are the biggest challenges they're facing in trying to adopt this technology or even think about it?
Well, I think the challenges are numerous and the opportunities are numerous as well. So one of the biggest obstacles is data and how clean your data is and how accessible it is, how accurate it is. We've talked about AI hallucinating because it's only as good as the data that it's working off of. We talked about trust and transparency, and that in particular for the collaborations, both public-private with governments and enterprises, but also cross-border collaboration. When you're talking about your internal data, how precious that could be to an individual country, and how comfortable are you going to be using or sharing that and making data an open source accessible to multiple folks. So those are just some of the basic challenges. How do you make sure that you can regulate it appropriately, trust it, make it transparent, and get the right infrastructure in place to take advantage of it? And lastly, unlocking the talent that you have and making them digital natives that can engage in this future way of doing work.
And Adrian, the blueprint also talks about integrating AI with other technologies, including quantum computing, robotics, etc. Just can you break that down for us, for people who don't know much about this subject?
Well, what we try to do is look into the medium term and even the long term, if you like. So we've just seen the rise of generative AI, which is this new way of doing AI. That will become a little bit more active in being able to do work for you, become an assistant, an AI agent that will operate certain tasks. Then you'll need to really trust it, of course. And then we envisage that technology over time will link with other technologies, like quantum computing. Now, quantum is what we would term probably more of a frontier technology. There have been some exciting announcements recently of new chips. But when we get AI and quantum working together, in some years, it'll be able to handle a lot more parameters. So very complicated things like the human genome. How do we make sure we can use this to model drug discoveries, personalized to you as an individual? Or if you think about climate change is a very complicated problem. Or mapping oceans, so many variables. Quantum computing is very effective at handling all of those processes in a way that traditional computers are not. So we try to look at the trends and what could come. But I do want to pick up on one point because it was so central, and that's trust. You know, Regina mentioned that. Ethics, making sure that this is not, is not biased, that it's transparent, that people feel that they can trust this, that it's not, I suppose, transparency, that you know you're talking to an AI. Those sorts of things are central to maintaining trust.
And obviously Davos is about big and bold ideas, and the blueprint is one of them. If there's one takeaway that you would both like global leaders to take from the blueprint going back home from Davos, what would it be, starting with you, Regina?
We want our clients to seize the day, right? So our message is you can with AI. You can do almost anything with AI. So what bold ideas do you have? Don't be scared of it, embrace it, use it within your organization, because only when you unlock your own data, not just what's publicly available, but your own data, will you drive into the next generation of how work gets done.
I would agree completely and build on that and say, this is really once in a generational opportunity to build the wealth of countries and the prosperity of societies, not leave people behind. We know that there'll be, for sure, concerns and things that we have to work through together as a global community, if you like. But, the opportunities are vast. So, as Regina said, you can with AI, for sure.
Thank you so much for that. A big thank you again to Regina Mayor and Adrian Clamp from KPMG for sharing their insights on how AI can reshape economies and tackle critical global challenges. Now, the conversation around responsible AI is just getting started. That's all for now from Reuters at Davos 2025. Please do stay tuned for more from us here. Thank you.